is going on, Spitfires? Welcome back to another episode of the Spitfire podcast. You know me, but you may not know the other person on the screen. And if you don't, you should know her. This is Alicia Couri, and she is a Spitfire to the nth degree. She's an audacious Spitfire, and I can't wait to dive in to her story to share how she discovered her inner Spitfire and how she's unleashing it on the world. Alicia, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Lauren. I'm excited to be here. Audacious confidence. Woohoo. Let's dive in.
Well, tell me more about that. I love a good like duo, amplifying what confidence is, but tell me, what does it mean to be audaciously confident?
It's to take your confidence to the next level and really be bold and step out and do things that you didn't think that you could do. Just
I need to know more about that.
Oh, do you? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So I define it as that unshakable belief in yourself that's so bold and so brave that you dare to step out despite your feelings, fears, or past failures to live your life that you imagined, like what is possible for my life, and let's live into that.
I'm feeling that. And I'm also like, oh, I got a little shake. I got a little shake in my legs and my tippy toes. And so
I always have a little shake in my tippy toes.
A little shake. I'm like that unshakable. How much is the portion that can shake a little bit?
Yeah, you know what? You can shake, but the belief in you doesn't shake. Like I can step out and do something I haven't done before, and my knees could knock and I can feel the heart, palpitating. But the belief in myself that, you know what, I can do this. That's the unshakable part.
Love that. So where did you first notice that unshakable belief in yourself?
Oh, it took years, girl.
We got time
for me to get here. And when I really look at the acceleration of my journey, it's only been in the last 5-6 years that the acceleration has happened. I was interviewing someone on my show recently, and she was saying quantum leaps happen in hindsight. Like, you don't realize the quantum leap until you look back at where you were and where you are. And so when I look in the last 6 years of my life, where it's taken me, it's like that has been a quantum leap. And the journey was getting to that place of making the shift. So I was not always very confident in myself at all, as many people probably feel like they are right now. I had a belief, and it was a false belief, that confidence was something you were either born with or you weren't. Like, you couldn't develop confidence. So that was my fixed mindset, like confidence. Because I would look at people, I'm like, wow, how could they be like that? How could they do that? And I couldn't possibly, I couldn't put myself in that category. Like, I couldn't see myself like that. And so for many, many years of my life, and I will tell my age, I'm 52, I'll be 53 in May. Woo-hoo. So for many years of my life, I held back because of a lot of limiting beliefs about myself that were birthed or seeded from other people. A lot of people in my childhood that said things negatively about me that I bought into, and that became my narrative. I was a Spitfire as a child. People were afraid of me. I mean, when I came into a room, I was tiny but mighty. I was, I still am, but like, my voice showed up before my physical self did. So people knew I was coming. And so that's the little audacity that I had from childhood. I was audacious. And then when I was, and this is going into my story, I know you didn't really ask me all of this, but
Oh, I want to know.
but but as a 3-year-old, I hear stories about how bold I was and how people couldn't say things in front of me because I would tell everybody. Like, I was that child. It's like, and so I was really happy as a child, and two major things happened to me when I was around 4.5. One was my hair was about as uncontrollable as I was. I had this fine, frizzy, crazy hair that my mother couldn't tame. And so the story goes that because she couldn't tame it, because she'd put it in a ponytail, slick it back, and within 5 minutes, it was like, whoo, like a fan.
Mm.
And so she just shaved it off. So I was just like, I had like a little afro. So I was a little, tiny little thing with an afro, and people started calling me a boy because I looked like a boy. I no longer had pigtails. I no longer looked like a girl. So I had to continually convince people that I was a girl and I wasn't a boy, but I was a tomboy. So I always wore pants. And so that was one thing. And then the second thing was we moved from Trinidad, where I was born, all the way to Australia, where my father was doing his PhD. So we moved to Australia, and that's kind of where my audacity slipped away. And when I started school at 5, we were in a very small university town in Australia, and they had never really seen Black people. This is back in the 70s. They had seen them on National Geographic. They'd seen them on TV, kind of on TV in documentaries, but not really in person. And so kids in school who had never really seen anyone with my complexion or my hair texture or my nose or my lips or my accent were fascinated, but not always in a constructive way. I'll say it that way. And so as a 5-year-old, I didn't really know how to address that. I didn't have the answers for them. When people would ask if I taste like chocolate, I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so. Why is my skin this color? Why is my hair like this? What if I shower, does it wash off? I'm like, oh, but it's out of, just out of curiosity. Mm. But because I stood out every time I walked into a room. Now, remember, I stood out, but I love standing out because I loved attention. But now I stood out in a way that was very uncomfortable for a 5-year-old. And so I kept going further, retreating further and further. I just wanted to blend in. I didn't want to stand out. So my grades weren't good because I just wanted to be, I didn't want to stand out for anything. So I figured if I just kept quiet and just kind of moved into the background, nobody will recognize, notice, or see me. And so that became my life for a very long time, even into my adulthood, which I didn't even recognize.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
More?
Well, I'm resonating so much with this, and the more I talk to people that I see and envision as Spitfires, really like have always had it in them, but there's been moments where things weren't on their terms, where they felt like they had to hide those pieces of themselves and bury it down. And then over time we just kind of tolerate those situations and don't even realize how much more we're burying ourselves until we hit that point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just don't recognize it anymore.
You don't until you're so exhausted and so tired and you don't know why. And you don't know how you used to be that
frustrated. For me, it was frustration because it's like, I know it's here,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't access it. I couldn't find it anymore. And I had to excavate. I had to like go in there and try to, because this was now, I had moments of real boldness in my life, where I would do things and it would seem like nothing to me, but people were like, how did you do that? Like, what inside of you made you do something? I mean, I picked up and moved. The rest of my family is still in Trinidad, because after Australia, we did move back to Trinidad. And the thing was, I looked like everybody else. So that was comforting, but then I didn't sound like anybody because I had a really thick Australian accent after 5 years, my whole childhood in Australia, and coming back at 10 years old. And now, you know, I don't even remember how Trinis speak. Right? And so every time I would open my mouth, like heads would swivel and people were like, you know, and I started getting teased for the way I said words. And so that shut me down too, because now I'm like, I don't want to say anything. I don't want to say anything wrong and be laughed at because of the way I spoke. And so that became another layer of trying to disappear. And so I struggled because I realized that I wasn't diagnosed. Back then they didn't diagnose people, but I did transpose words and numbers, like letters and numbers, and I would get confused with things and formulas and stuff like that. And so like in my adulthood, I found out about dyslexia and dyscalculia. And I'm like, that's what plagued me in my childhood, because I couldn't, like, math was so hard for me because I would transpose numbers all the time and trying to remember formulas. They wouldn't stick in my head. And so I was labeled as dumb, stupid, can't learn, or someone who doesn't try, right? You're so smart, but you don't try. I'm like, I'm trying, you know, I am trying, but it's hard. So, so having all these pieces, you know, I didn't realize, like I used to say, I don't have a story. I'm just regular, like there's nothing special or unique or different about me. But when I started breaking out all these pieces and really understanding every little piece, was what created the mindset that I had and created those limiting beliefs. And there are so many people that are struggling with these things that if I can give voice to what it was in my childhood and growing up, that they can recognize it, because they might be in the same place that I am, kind of trying to figure things out and not really understanding where it's coming from. So every time I get an opportunity to speak, I want to bring these different parts out, because you might have had dyslexia or dyscalculia and believe that you're stupid and you can't learn. Listen, I'm a learner. One of my top strengths is learner. I love learning. It's just the way I was taught in school stifled my ability to learn. And it wasn't until I got out of school, I realized how much I just love learning. You know, I'm a growth, my motivators are growth motivators. And so I had to resurrect that part of me, because school was so hard. I felt like I couldn't learn, and I had to resurrect. I am a learner. I love learning. I love growing. I just had to find how that works for me. So hopefully, you know, this helps people kind of start charting or understanding their own journey and seeing, oh, this is probably why I connected this to this and why this means this to me. And that's not true at all. And I've made up a whole story that I don't have to believe in anymore. I don't have to live in anymore. And that's why, you know, much like you with this podcast, I love doing shows that help pull these things out, because we're not just one thing, and we need to understand all the different parts and pieces of us that make us who we are. And if we're Spitfires, let's embrace that and enjoy that, you know.
Well, see, I think that everybody is a Spitfire, but it's how they
Mhm.
define it. And I actually just recently, I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, the 4 archetypes of Spitfire leaders. So whether we are motivated internally or externally, or we express internally or externally. Because I think it's really easy. Like if you're an extrovert, if you have this like fiery energy, if you like come in and you're seen, people are like, that's a Spitfire. That's what I categorize it as. But there's this inner fire that is
Mhm.
so captivating
Powerful.
and powerful. And that's why I love jamming out with people with introverted preferences, because the depth that they go to understand and develop and really empathize is
Mm.
amazing. It's beautiful. So I love this audacious confidence because it's customized for you and for however someone wants to play in that space, in the same way that you have customized and tailored the way that you learn to meet your
Mhm.
preferences. And I wonder if this now opens up for people listening. Where have you put yourself in the box of an institution or someone else's categorization or value around learning or achievement or success? And how can you bring that into your own preferences?
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think the key for me is really doing that excavation. It's really digging in and seeing I where I lost it, or where I started preferring other people's valuation or their definition of who I was,
Mhm.
and not really taking the time to define that for myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that journey, it is painful. And so people need to be prepared. And I think this is probably where people are like, yeah, not for me right now. I'm not ready to go there. Like, ooh, do I want to go back into the awkward, like elementary school or junior high years? Because that's where a lot of the trauma was experienced initially. Or maybe it was before that at home with relatives or in another setting. But there's a lot. There's a lot that happens with like the social dynamics and expectations.
And I think you have to be, like you said, you have to be ready for that. I was at a place of growth where I was ready for something different. I was ready to explore that about myself, because I was sick and tired of being frustrated. I was sick and tired of knowing, after something happened, and saying, I could have done that, or I could have done better, or why wasn't I chosen, or why didn't I step up? Because I know I have it in me to
Mhm.
do it. And I just was preferring this back seat. In fact, part of my vocabulary was, oh, I'm a behind the scenes person. I'll do all the work behind the scenes.
I just
I
said
don't need
that.
to be seen.
I
I'm
literally just said this last week. I'm like, I like being behind the
I'm
scenes.
not behind the scenes person. I don't need to be seen or heard. I'll do all the work behind the scenes. In fact, I remember in college, so I studied fashion in college, and the chairperson, she was a woman, chairperson of the fashion department, pulled me in as one of her interns. Um, and it was really amazing because I was doing work study. So I had work study, but over the summer before classes began, and she saw me there all the time. And so I wasn't one of the original. She usually has, I think, 4 interns or 4 people four students that she pulls in to kind of be her closer assistants that will help with fashion shows and help with a lot of other things that we get to do that some of the other students don't get to do. So she had her 4 that she had already picked from the year previously, and I'm coming in as a freshman, and she pulled me in as a 5th. And they're like, she doesn't usually have 5. She usually just has 4 interns. See, there's so many things that happen in my life that I didn't even recognize my gift made room for, like just my presence made room for. Mm-hmm. And so she pulled me in, and I always kept feeling like the outsider because I was the 5th wheel, right? I was like, I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess she's feeling pity, you know, that imposter syndrome. She feels pity for me and she's just pulling me into these. But these were really amazing opportunities for me. Mm-hmm. And one of the opportunities I remember, I got to work at MTV Latino when MTV, when it started in 1992 or 93 here in Miami. I got to work there in their wardrobe department, in their fashion department, you know, to dress the VJs and well, it was me and one other person was chosen. He spoke Spanish. I didn't speak Spanish. And so we were in the wardrobe department. And wouldn't you know it, he was out there schmoozing with Daisy Fuentes and all the other VJs and all that stuff and dressing them and stuff. Guess where I was? I was in the closet. I was in the closet, cataloging everything, ironing everything, steaming everything. Like I was in the closet, literally in the closet, because I'm a behind the scenes girl. Someone will recognize my talent. Someone will recognize my, you know, someone will recognize me. Oh no. No, I stayed in the closet. Nobody was coming in the closet. Meanwhile, he was out there getting recognized, doing all this stuff, getting invited to stuff. And I was back there. Oh, look at him, just sucking up to everybody. And, you know, because that's my mindset, because I didn't value myself enough to also step out of behind the closet to go on set and help dress them. I felt like I needed to be invited into that, mm-hmm. you know, and so I didn't have permission. I didn't give myself permission to be there, even though I could have been. So all those things looking back at, you know, it's like I had the opportunity, but I chose to shrink myself because of, again, not wanting to stand out, not wanting to make mistakes, not wanting to. So I chose to shrink myself. And even though it was a subconscious choice, it was still a choice, mm-hmm. based on my own biases. So looking back at all that, it's hilarious looking back at it now, but I see how I embodied that narrative that I belonged behind the scenes, not in front of the camera, although my heart wanted to be there. I didn't think that I was good enough or worthy enough or had what it took to be there.
Yeah. Well, and I'm letting it all sink in because it is the embodiment of the narrative, and the narrative is what you set. And so you're living in that truth. And honestly, the truth of our past are based on lies we were told, mm-hmm. that we believed as truth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love what you said about introverted Spitfires, because it's so important. See, I believed myself to be an introvert for a long time too, because but my introversion wasn't true introversion. It was fear-based introversion. I put myself in that category. And understanding though, where your energy and your strength, where you draw energy from. And if do you draw energy from people around you? So I'm more of an ambivert. There are times when I really do need to pull back and be within myself to draw that energy back. And there are times that people give me energy. Yeah. And they could be equal amounts, but just because you're introverted doesn't make you less valuable. There's so many people, well, I'm an introvert. That's not an excuse for not being bold.
No.
You can be bold, you can be audacious and be an introvert. That's just a story you're telling yourself, or that you've heard from other people saying that well, introverts belong behind the scenes. No, you can be introverted and be, I mean, there's so many, I mean, Robin Williams was introverted, but he was an entertainer because it was what was inside of him to do. And so you can be still, step out and be bold. You don't have to necessarily be around a lot of people to make that happen, but you can be bold.
Absolutely. And I think it's a matter of like, where do you want to have impact? And so is it one-to-one? Is it one to a small group? Is it one to a screen? And I think it's how you classify it versus, well, it's just an absolute no. So look at the excuses and how they're holding you back from a binary decision versus looking for opportunities to be seen and to show up in a way that can create the impact you want to have.
Absolutely. Love it.
Yeah. And I'm definitely on the, I was going to ask you if you've ever done the Myers-Briggs step 2.
Step 2, no.
Okay. So on the 4 different dichotomies, there are 5 different qualities that will show if you're in preference or out of preference. So I'm similar. I have a lot of introverted and extroverted qualities within, because I'm an E, but barely. And it's because I'm gregarious. I have charisma. I love to make people smile. So like if I get laughs from people or if I'm like engaging in there, I get the surge. But if I'm around a lot of people I don't know, if I get the sense of the room that I'm not aligned with the energy, it's completely soul sucking for me. So I have to be very selective in the groups that I go into because my energy is so impacted. But I can have a really deep coaching session and talk about really challenging topics and be completely energized by that.
Yeah, that sounds like me.
Yeah. Well, and I think the more self-discovery that people do, the more they actually unlock that you can dance in all of those spaces, but you have preferences and you're more selective, or you have to be more selective in the energy that you're around.
Yes, because you can also develop stories around the wrong things. So you can be exactly like you said, you can be in a room that is just soul sucking and then decide that, well, that might be because I'm an introvert. And so but that may not necessarily be the truth. So I feel you there. I feel the same way. I can be in a room with people I don't know and it energizes me because the energy is so high, but then I can be in a room where the energy is just too high. And it's like, I got to get out of here. It's just too much and overwhelming.
Yeah. I think it's the source of it too. So if it's manufactured high energy, I'm like, oh, no, thank you. But can I tell you where I got most energized?
When? What?
I went and did karaoke at a gay bar and had the time of my life at 1 a.m. serenading multiple people to Lisa Loeb's Stay. And I got 3 proposals.
That is awesome.
It was amazing. I used to have performance anxiety. So I actually ended up performing and entertaining through the pandemic, but it took so much out of me and I felt so much pressure to do it that I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I actually stopped performing for over a year. So that little moment, I was like, this is on my terms and I'm going to have the best time ever. I was like crawling on the stage. I was laying back. I was using the steps. Like
it's a free environment. It was an open, free environment. No one's judging, no holds barred. You can be yourself, do whatever you want. This past weekend, I reconnected with a friend of mine we hadn't seen each other in like 6 years. And as we were walking down the boardwalk to go to lunch, this couple was playing some loud music and stuff. And he's like, let's dance. So he grabs my hand and we start dancing in the middle of the park. And people were watching and, like standing around and like clapping and stuff. But then we were at lunch and this live singer, he started performing live and he saw me in my seat and I'm eating and I'm doing this and he's like, let's go. And so we stand up and we're dancing in the restaurant. And I started like, I wasn't paying attention. And then I started paying attention. And there were some people with these confused looks, like, what is going on here? But the entertainer, the singer, he was tickled pink. Like it gave him more a surge of energy
Yeah.
that we got up from our food and started dancing to him singing. And then the rest of the restaurant, that seemed like they weren't just ignoring him the whole time, like they were just, eating and paying. After the song, he got a huge like applause. It's like all of a sudden people started paying attention, because the two of us were acting ridiculous. And then I think people were kind of wondering, are they a couple? Are they not a couple? What is going on here?
They're looking for the story.
They're looking for the story between the two of us. But it was fun. We were just having fun. And, I'm
So
like, these people don't know me.
right. Well, so my takeaway is if you're the person on stage, like if you're feeling like you're not connected, like find the one person that you see like energy in and vibe off of them and really amplify that and play with it. So whenever I do public speaking, I look for three people, like just the gentle head nod, like, yeah. And I'm like, you, let's go. And so
yes.
so you get the energy that way. But like if you're only focusing on the people who are checking their phones or, looking anywhere but at you, it's going to have the opposite effect.
Mm-hmm.
So focus on
Absolutely.
the people that want to be there.
Yeah. I love that. And I do the same thing. You look for the way you can really connect with someone, and then that brings you more energy in your performance, and what comes out is so much more valuable.
Amazing. So you have some exciting stuff coming up. Did the trip get rescheduled?
Yes, the trip was rescheduled. So I will be headed to Dubai. I'm not sure when this is going to air, but the Dubai trip is in May, and it is a phenomenal experience, where it's the First Lady's Economic and Sustainability Summit. So Princess Muradian Ugalana, from Nigeria. She has and I'm trying to remember it. I don't remember all the whole acronym, but her organization really focuses on sustainability and economic development for women around the globe. How do they get better access to medical for themselves, for their children, and economic development? How do they bring money into their homes? And so this is something that she started many, many years ago with first ladies, and they usually do it at the UN. So she brings first ladies and other royalty and into the conversation, and they hold this 5-day summit at the UN. And this year she got permission, because after the pandemic, during the pandemic, they couldn't do it. They did it virtually last year. And so she got permission to do it in Dubai this year, because Dubai is also really focused on the development of women in their nation. So we'll be headed to Dubai, and I get to speak to the women, and it's going to be phenomenal. She's arranged all this fabulous. There's an awards, there's a fashion show. One of the Real Housewives of Atlanta, she's bringing her sustainable fashions. So there's going to be a fashion show. We're going to do a yacht cruise. We're doing a safari. It's going to be like, and it's all because of this book, and I have it, it's behind me, but I have one here. It's called Rise Up: Women Who Lead, Building Legacy. A friend of mine, a sister queen of mine, she was inspired, God inspired, to put this book together. And she said there were very specific people that were supposed to be in this book. And she called me and she said, I'm doing this compilation book. God told me I need to do this book, and you have to be one of the authors. So I said, okay. And then about 3 weeks after, I said, I can't do it. I can't do it. I just don't have the time. I can't write. I'm swamped. I can't do it. And she said, you're supposed to be in this book. God told me you're going to be in this book. And you made a commitment. I'm not letting you out of your commitment. And I was like, fine, write it. I sat down and I wrote my chapter and I sent it in. And then, and now all of this is happening, and we're going on a 10-city tour with this book. And Dubai is the first place. So because of this book, we're launching the tour in Dubai as the first first leg of our
thing. That is an amazing way to kick it off.
Yeah,
for sure.
I'm telling. I don't know how the rest of. I don't know how South Florida. When we do it in how it's gonna. Because that's on me. I don't know how I'm going to top Dubai with our event.
You top it by being audacious. That's how you.
That's right. I got to be audacious. So, but I'm not. I'm not Princess Ugalana, Princess Maradian, but I'm Alicia. So we'll figure something out.
You are Wonder Woman. You will absolutely figure it out, and you have an amazing base that's ready to support you, ma'am.
Yeah. Yes. So we'll work it out.
Awesome.
I'm excited for those things that are happening, and again, looking back at the quantum leap, like I never would have had the courage to even write my first book. Let alone write a second, and then now be co-authored in 4 or 5. I don't even know how many others. I would not have, because I was stuck in this story of, I don't have anything to say that anyone is going to care about. I was stuck in that story. I would never have stepped into booking myself on television, on media, not even knowing what I was going on TV to do, but booking myself on 26 media appearances. If I hadn't started that journey and stepped out in audacious confidence, because I felt like, what do I need to go on TV for? I don't have anything anybody wants to know about. But when the opportunity showed itself to me, I was brave enough, even though I didn't believe that I had what it took. And I had a coach at the time that also said, you don't have anything ready for TV yet. You're not ready for this. But I ignored that coach because something else inside of me was saying, this is my moment. And I listened to that voice instead of what I normally would have done, which was listen to the voice of someone else that I thought knew better than I did. And I listened to my own voice. You know best, but you have to tap into that. You have to be able to tap into what that is so that you can know that you know best. And that's that unshakable belief in yourself, so that you can start trusting who you are and knowing I know best.
Yeah. I love that. I'm just imagining all the people listening to it, but how do I do that? How do I do that? Just shut up and listen. Just shut up and listen. The voice has always been there.
Yeah.
You've just been ignoring it and trying to make excuses.
Exactly. And that's through all the coaching and all the stuff that I've done to get to where I am. I created these 7 secrets that I thought were 7 things that really helped me. Because if you're sitting there thinking, how do I get there? How do I even start the process? So I have these seven secrets to audacious confidence that is free. It's downloadable for free, that you can go to audaciousconfidence.com and at least start that process for yourself. Yeah.
Well, I will make that available in the show notes, because I feel like that's going to be the question after this. Well, how do I get started? That sounds great, but y'all have been doing this for a long time.
Not that long. I mean, if you consider 6 years.
Yeah, same.
My journey's just really begun. So I can't wait to see where I'm going next.
Yeah. I
You
can't
know,
wait to see where you go next. I'm gonna be
I
watching
know,
closely. I have my
you
binoculars.
know. And the other thing too, I use those 7 steps, even though I started this whole audacious confidence movement and I was the audacious confidence girl and blah, 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 blah. When the opportunity came to me to enter the pageant, I shied away from it for 2 years. I'm like, no, I'm not going into any pageant. So I went and I walked myself through those seven things again, just so that I can be confident in myself to actually make the decision to go to the pageant.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because at
Isn't that
50, I'm
great
like,
when you could use your
yeah,
own material to like, you're like,
I
oh
eat
wait, this
my,
stuff works.
this stuff works. I walked through it myself and it still works. Not just it works, but it still works.
Still works. Yeah. And you can always revisit it. And that's why it
Yep.
is a practice. It is not a one and done, you reach the finish line. It is a continuous daily practice and reminder of who you are
Mm-hmm.
and what your inner voice is trying to tell you.
Absolutely.
Amazing.
Use it
So
every day.
we're gonna have resources available. We got your website. If people want to follow you on your trek to Dubai, if they want to come see you in Miami, where should they go?
Alicia360.com, and they can connect with me on all social media platforms from that site. And my website is on that site. It's all
fantastic. Well, thank you so much for sharing your light and your fire and your audacious confidence. And I'm so excited to see your adventures and the book and all the fun stuff coming for you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Lauren.
Yay. And for all the Spitfires out there, you keep being awesome.
Yes.